Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for January 18th, 2021. Will the people here in the auditorium please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A few housekeeping rules. If you're going to come for public comment, which we're going to have here next, we'll come to the podium and make sure you speak clearly into the microphone. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Nobody for public comment?
I'll try to talk with the mask on if it's an issue. Okay, there aren't germs around yet. First, the setup in here, I appreciate the selectmen and everybody involved to, be able to have this at a, public input. So I appreciate that. And my comment is, I think the meeting before last, you were absent, Chairman Meany. So whatever the meeting.
Yeah, I was there, but I wasn't trained.
Yeah. The board signed a memorandum of understanding that night. And I was watching that, and I was a little bit disappointed that maybe there wasn't just a little bit of an explanation of what it was that, what it contained and how it might have affected the taxpayers. So I guess my question is, if you can answer it, is it a non-public document, even though that it was signed in public? Okay. So, okay. Okay. Well, I did get that information. I did speak to someone and they explained it to me, but still, I would have appreciated if the board would have, given a little bit, kind of like bringing a kid into a candy store and saying, there's the row of candies, but you can't have any. I think that's the only scenario I can come up with. So thanks. That's all I have.
Anybody else for public comment? Next item is department head committee. Keith Moore? I'm good. Keith this evening? Okay, we're supposed to start the public hearing at 7. Can everybody hear me okay in the room? We'll do the manifest, and it's to order the treasurer to sign the payroll and accounts payable checks dated January 21st, 2021, as included in the following manifest. Payroll manifest for $60,000, $339.49. 2020 accounts payable manifest for $68,332.36. 2021 accounts payable manifest for $11,470.05, for a total of $140,141.90. Do I have a second? Second by Vice Chairman Hippler. All those in favor, roll call. Sherry, John Van, yes. And Ricky, and myself, yes. The next item on the agenda, I've got plenty of time, will be the minutes for 1/11/2021. Page 1. Anybody have anything on page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. And page 8. All those in favor? Sherry, yes. John? Ricky? Aye. Unanimous. We have the town administrator's report. Yep.
So I gave you all a report, which includes general items and building aids projects. The only thing I've added since last week was to let, I really didn't think things, we already had a discussion about the reception on Thursday night, with the moderators. And tomorrow night, so on your agenda, but it's a text message. Tomorrow night, we would like to meet with Zoom. Joan from Rose and asked. So we'd like to do that at 6:30 tomorrow night to go over the coverage match for Rose. So it's not on your list, but is everybody available to do that as soon as 6:30? Okay, anybody else knows? I'll get the chief and then we will. Honestly, that's all I did, because I didn't finish the one today.
Okay. Correspondence or other business? I guess it was in the public meeting last week, and I guess I'll bring it up under other business. We did have a site walk on Stewart Road with a request for a ZBA issue, but that's going to be postponed until the 25th. No, 1st of February, I believe. First meeting in February. Due to the fact it has to go to the planning board before we can render any decision and see if the planning board has any input in it. Other than that,
What time was the meeting with moderators on Thursday?
6:30.
you'll have to take over kind of the Ricky, right? That we had a class, and then when I clear it, if you guys are still on, I'll come on.
Okay, just give me a shout, let me know.
Yeah. Okay, we have no other business.
Why can't our meeting be that short?
I know. Either we're doing something right or wrong, we're getting shorter here. Still have about 10 more minutes before we start the public hearing. Anybody have any objection to starting early?
I just have a question regarding the people that are attending from Zoom.
Yes, what would that be? Go ahead.
Well, are they aware that we're going to be starting a public hearing at 7?
Probably not, but I'm working on the test. The ones that requested it, I still mentioned a couple that have requested it, so so we can wait till the 10 minutes, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, if there's probably multiple committee members that were gonna log on that. I've got a group text, I mean, a group email with the link, so we weren't confirmed.
Okay, depends on, I don't know who the other people are that requested the be until we haven't signed on yet, so it could be finance members.
Well, we had 2 that I know about, but then we broadcast the whole committee.
Yep.
So that's 11 other people. It'd probably be right to wait until, I hate to say it. It's just, knowing what,
Yeah.
if you can,
We're on a tight schedule, so we'll wait.
there's a cocktail waiting.
We're not on a tight schedule.
Make a
Yes,
motion
sir.
to recess till 7 PM.
We can do that. Make a motion. Make a motion that we recess till 7 o'clock. All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, we're recessed for about 10 minutes.
Jack, do you know if the facilities at the
Bathroom?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
For all our facilities.
All set? All set? Are we all set? Okay, we're going to reconvene the Selectmen's meeting for the 18th of January 2021 is now back in session. We are now going to open up the public hearing on the warrant article to be brought forth at the deliberative session. The first item we'll start with will be Article 9, and that is for the budget. And it's shall the town raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $7,154,140. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $7,009,592, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:3, Roman numeral 10, and Roman numeral 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Are there any questions on the budget? Do you want to go line by line or? Okay. Yes, anybody wanted to go line by line for each item on the budget or? Okay, I'll recognize Mr. Butt.
Good evening. Thank you, Jack. I do have a question regarding police vehicle maintenance line and police vehicle equipment line. Line 282 and line 283. What page? 282, it's item number 282 and 283 on the budget. I misspoke. It's police vehicle management.
Okay, police vehicle maintenance is what you're talking about?
Well, it's police vehicle management, line 282, and police vehicle equipment.
It looks like lines 279 and 280 on page 15 is what he's talking
I've
about.
got this one here. I've got it, which item, yes, go ahead, any questions?
Well, I want to make sure we're on the same item. The police chief indicated it was some other number. On page 15 of the handout that was given out, that I received tonight,
You have to speak
It's
up
line-
a little bit, Dick.
okay. The information that was passed out tonight on page 15, I'm talking about line items 282 and 283. .282 is police vehicle management, and 283 is police vehicle equipment, on the information I have.
Right.
And both lines are unfunded, and both lines are new to the budget this year. So I'd like to know why what's the purpose of those two items?
As the chief explained it to us, and the chief is here, correct me if I'm wrong, what it is for future, that is,
Maybe it's like for Dr. Nelson.
Nope.
I'll have to go to that one.
All right.
It's working, now it's working. As I understand it, from what the police chief explained to us, and he's here and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is for future, for management of the police fleet, to do management, he is looking at some point further down the road to put a cruiser in the budget as a line item instead of doing it by warrant article. That was one of his intents. And the other one is for the equipment for the police vehicle, instead of putting it in the warrant, to have it listed as a budget item. Is that correct, chief?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it kind of departs from what typically happens in the town of Ware. It's a capital expense. I don't consider it an operating expense. It's a capital expense. He went through the capital improvements plan committee to make a request initially for 3 cruises. It somehow got down to 1, but I don't think it should be in the budget. I think he's circumventing the voters by putting it in the operating budget. It gets buried in the operating budget. People aren't going to know it's there. Typically, people don't go line by line in the operating budget when it comes to voting. So I'm a little disappointed that the board has allowed that to stay in there. There's no doubt in my mind, he didn't get 2 cruises last year. He dropped it down to 1. I don't know why. He went to the CIP for 3. I don't know if he's holding his finger up in the air and finding out which way the wind's blowing, but gee, it shouldn't be rolled into the operating budget. You might as well put some of the vehicles from the highway department in the operating budget. Well, the fire department is self-funding. But every year, I've attended every deliberative session since SB2. We've always had the opportunity for the voters to decide the direction this town will go. So I wish the board would, I know it's unfunded, but is there anything preventing him? Last year he had a default budget, I think he wound up $160,000 in surplus within his budget. Is there anything preventing him this year, if you get a default budget, from using money in excess to buy a cruiser within the operating budget? Can he transfer money to that line, assuming he can, and purchase a cruiser this year?
I don't believe he can, and it's not in here, and he would have to come before us as it's capital, as you said, it's a capital expense. So
all he has to do is get board approval?
I think that it's going to take more than that. My opinion would be that
Well,
it should go to the town at this point.
I'd like to have a definite.
Well, we'll have to check with legal counsel on that then.
Because I really truly believe circumventing the voters.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Anybody else on the budget? Recognize Mr. Campagna.
Frank Campana, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really kind of just want, for my comment, I would like a number, a dollar amount confirmed. Listening to, is this all right here, I guess?
Probably pull it a little closer to you so we can hear.
The budget surplus for this year, listening to one of your meetings, was pretty close to $300,000. I think it was 297, something around that amount. So if you'll let me round it up to 300,000. Okay. In the budget proposal, I didn't look at tonight's spiral bound handout that was given. So I'm using the printout of December 4th, when you folks approve bottom lines of all the departments. And on the last page, and you probably don't have it, but on the last page, it gives there's a column for increase, a percentage, a dollar amount, increase proposed versus default. And at least the number is, as of that time, was about 144,000, I guess, 145, 144. And underneath that, of course, this is all the work done by the finance person, which I'm not questioning. It has a 2% difference between the proposed and the default. And I guess my comments addressed to the Finance Committee too, also. I think it would behoove at least me as a taxpayer, that 2% is, and the dollar amount is okay to see, to have there. But I would like to know, and I would like to see and have it vetted or have it made known to the taxpayers, the difference between either both dollar amount and percentage, the difference between this year's proposed and last year's passed budget, adopted budget. That's what's important to me. I think it's quite a large number, and I can stand to be corrected. But the difference between this year's budget, proposed budget, and last year's passed, approved budget, and I remember that number, or this year's number includes what the people voted for, pay raises, everything else. I get that. But still, it's a block dollar amount. It's over $305,000. The difference between last year's budget and what people approved that's in this year's proposed budget. I keep looking that way because the moderator's there, the chairman's there, so I'm not trying to slight you two folks. And I'm always reluctant to do the math on my own, but that comes up to a little over 4.5%. And I think that's an important number for people to know. $300,000, 4.5%. Okay, yes, it's attributed to how I voted, but I might be okay that I voted that dollar amount and that percentage, but I may not be. Thankfully, we got the government giving us all kinds of money. I won't live long enough to see who's going to pay it back. My grandchildren will, I'm sure. So I don't know if something can be done. I requested last year for the police article, police contract, to see if the selectmen would include the total impact of the 3-year deal. That did not happen. I got a commitment from you. It said it would happen. I got a commitment from the moderator. She reiterated so could understand what I was looking for. And from the deliberative session Saturday to Monday when you folks met, everybody forgot that that commitment was made. You know, I think it's important for people to know everything. You know, Mr. Van uses the word transparency quite a bit. And that's probably the appropriate word, but I might use the word honesty, and I'm not saying dishonest, but if my numbers are correct, try to make that known. You know, what the tax impact and percentage between last year's approved budget and this year's, excuse me, requested budget. Did I hopefully make some?
The other sheet that was handed out tonight,
Okay,
on the back page, after the budget spread, flip the page over from page 3 to 4. Yeah, and it has the,
oh, well,
it has the estimated tax impact of both the proposed and the default
okay,
at the top of the page.
well. Okay, but still, that does not compare what's requested this year as what over last year approved.
Well, last year was the default budget,
I get that. I get that.
and that's here. There's 2 columns for proposed and default.
Right, I get that, but that's only compare it. That has no relation to last year's actions. That's strictly this year's. This year's requested and this year's default. It doesn't do any comparison to last year's to this
Have it
year.
with me. Okay,
At least-
we'd have to get that from the finance
If I,
administrator, so.
I guess I'm speaking as I understand it, but I have to speak so other people might understand it. And sometimes I have trouble doing that, but again, I would look to the finance committee to probably, you know, help say, well, this is $300,000 more. You know, the overall budget is $300,000 more, and then there's a percentage attached to that.
And if we can, we'll get that other answer for you, so.
Okay, and that's all I have for now. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Any other questions on the budget? No, Dick, he hasn't spoken yet, so.
Thank you. Tom Flaherty, Sunrise Lane. Just want to make sure I understand Article 9 has a tax impact of $4.62 for proposed,
Right.
$4.45 for default. Is that in addition to the town portion from last year? Or is that the total impact? Like last year, the town portion was $4.79. Yeah. It's not. Okay. It's a total.
Yeah, that's the total. Hold on a second.
Yeah, the other warrant articles are usually in addition to, so I just want to make sure.
The $4.79 you speak of was the total impact, including all warrant articles.
Yep.
That 465 or 462 or
just the budget.
445 is just the operating budget, no warrant articles included.
Right. It's 506 total, I think, with all the warrant articles this year, right?
And that's the last page of the handout
Yep.
explains that.
So for comparison, it would be 479 last year to 506 this year if everything passes proposed.
Correct.
Okay.
But again, you have different warrant articles from last year to this year.
Yep.
Other ones, the road reconstruction, et cetera.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure it wasn't in addition to, it was a comparison.
No.
Thank you.
Any other, Richard?
I'm going to go through this exercise every year. There's a difference in line items between what you requested in the proposed budget and that same line item in the default budget. In the default budget, it's actually $191,508 of individual line items that are larger than what is requested in the default budget. I understand there are some restrictions on what you can do, but that's a big chunk of cash. I just have some questions on a couple of them. One is in terms of the default budget, just briefly. It says that it's last year's budget, reduced and increased as the case may be by debt service contracts and other obligations. You have some contracts in here that have been reduced. The contract for the police servers reduced by $2,500, but the default line shows a higher number, last year's number. Police accreditation is a reduction of $84.90 because you no longer participate in police accreditation. I'm assuming that that's either an agreement or a contract we had with that organization. I forget the name now.
Yeah, we've temporarily opted out of that for the time being.
Well, why do I have to pay for it? It's
Well, I mean, it's been opted out, and that was not long after the chief came here, so that's.
I know, but I would appreciate you asking me to pay through taxes for those items that you need. That's not an item that you need since you're not participating in it. I mean, maybe it'll happen 2 years from now, maybe 5 years from now. Why don't we address it then and put it in the operating budget? And if it gets passed, it's in the default budget. I mean, you have to admit you had money left over at the end of this year, $300,000, plus other obligations that you had. We had given out raises to individuals, and you covered those raises. Liability insurance, you covered that in the tune of about $70,000 increase. So I don't think you were hurting with the default budget. Matter of fact, I think you'd be hard pressed to say what you didn't accomplish with the default budget. I'm sure you accomplished everything you had to. But I'm just asking if you would look at the contracts that were there. In the server maintenance, I mean, I'm not talking a lot of money, but just in principle, it's $2,500 reduction.
Which one is that? Which item is
Police
that?
server maintenance, I'm not sure what line it is, but I probably could find it if you need it.
Oh, that's for the,
It's the line 273.
yeah, that's our, for the computer, it went down.
You must have a contract with the company that provides that service. Last year was $9,244. This year in your proposed budget, what you're requesting is $6,744, a reduction of $2,500. You would think under the definition of the default budget, according to what I've read here and what I have online, RSA, that you would be able to reduce that number to match your proposed number. That's a contractual obligation. Whether it goes up or down, the default budget can go.
Well, we're bound to, not to play with that default budget like we've had in the past, and there's been court cases on it, so.
I understand what you're saying, Jack. Let me just read this again then. The operating budget, this is last year's, the default budget is last year's operating budget, reduced and increased as the case may be by debt service, contracts, and other obligations. It says you can reduce it. It doesn't say it has to be higher than. I mean, if you could just at least look at it and look into it to see if you can.
We could do that. We'll look into it.
I appreciate that. So. I know you're not going to do it now, but
No.
I just have another item. or two.
Oh, go ahead. I was waiting for you to bring the other item up.
Thanks. It looks like there's about $50,000 in wages that were increased without voter approval. There's the finance director, there's the highway public works director, and there were some raises given out within the police department.
Well, the police department raises were done through the collective bargaining agreement, which was voted on. The raises went last year before the town deliberative session. We had those raises before.
Well, if you look at the
So-
default budget
Right.
and wages, specifically within the police department, there's an $18,376 difference between the default budget and the proposed budget. The proposed budget is $18,376 higher. So because of that, that means it was never approved by the voters. Not directly, but through an
Well-
operating budget that was approved. So otherwise, they'd match. Otherwise, if everything was done,
Well, we've had additional personnel, chief.
Those weren't raises, those were where we hired personnel at
Yep.
a higher step, filling vacancies. That's why it was more money. When we lost people, so in 2020, we lost 3 officers and 1 part-time officer. We had nobody in our pool to fill those as far as new officers. So we looked at certified officers, we had to hire at a higher rate, which means they're a higher step. There's your difference. They weren't raises, they were hired into a higher rate.
well, regardless of whether it's a raise or they were hired, that money apparently is not accounted for in the default budget. I mean, within the police department itself, and I'm not going to throw FICA in, but there's $18,376 difference, if you look at the budget, between the proposed budget and the default budget. There's something wrong there. It's line 235.
Yeah.
If those are all authorized and approved by the voters, regardless of what you're paying them or whether it was a raise or we're hiring an experienced officer, why aren't they the same? Shouldn't they be the same?
No, because you're hiring them at a higher rate than you would an officer that's inexperienced. They're already certified. They're hiring him at a higher rate as if the officer that they put through the academy, which costs X number of dollars, which you don't have that cost incurred, to pay his salary, pay him for the training, get him outfitted. At that point, he then comes on the road and he starts at the base rate of what we hire him for. Then till he gets past his probationary time, then he gets bumped up at each step. The chief brought in people who had a lot of experience, had already came from other agencies, had already been certified, so they get hired at a higher rate than you would somebody that's bought bargain basement.
That's fine. I mean, but shouldn't
That's
that
where
be,
the difference would be.
but shouldn't that be part of the default number? I mean, the fact that you hired somebody in at a higher rate than maybe what you had provided, but you are obligated to pay that person the money, whatever you hired him in at, whether he's got through experience or whatever happens to be.
I
Why
don't
isn't
think
that
we
why isn't
hired him
that-
at a higher rate and it was brought before the board and it was approved and he had the money in the budget. So we knew that it could be an extended cost later down. You're going to give him the pay raises. It's in the budget to go with the collective bargaining agreement, and that's what it has to follow.
Okay, it doesn't, on the surface, it doesn't
Okay.
make sense. When you hired somebody, you're obligated to pay that person whatever whatever you agreed upon, and then you got to find money in the default budget, if you get a default budget, the following year in order to cover the cost. You know, the finance director and the public works director, those were done without it being put in the operating budget. They were already being paid, right? I mean, finance director got a raise, I believe, in September. The public works director probably in April.
Well, and some of the money in the police budget was already there because they had people that left. So they took that money and then enhanced it with what they had left in their budget to hire them at the higher rate.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to the higher rate of the proposed
I mean,
budget.
yeah,
I'm just
that's-
wondering why that
Here's where
money
the
isn't
difference would
included
be.
in the default budget, because you're obligated to pay him, which means you got to, if my number's right, $50,000 you've got to find in the default budget in order to cover that cost. You did it this year with 2 employees, right? The public works director and the finance director. Those were done by you outside of the voter approval.
He brought those before the board and
I
went
understand.
through.
I
We
understand.
approved it. So
Yeah. Right.
he had the money in his budget and
Well, you understand now, if you get a default budget, which
Yeah.
is possible, you got to find money in the default budget to cover that cost.
correct.
All right. I think that's about it anyway. for me. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Tom?
Tom Clode, North Ware. If I understood what the previous speaker was saying, I believe I agree with him, and that is, if the new hires were done in relation to the contract that was approved by the voters, then I think the total cost of their salaries should be in the default budget as well as the proposed budget, because they were hired under the contract that was approved by the voters, even though they were not hired as rookies. Their salaries were part of the contract. So if they were hired on the third or fourth step and they're paid on the third or fourth step, and that was what the contract said, I think it should be in the default budget as well. So in other words, I think that the default and the proposed should probably, unless I'm missing something, should be the same for that line 235.
Okay.
My opinion, I'm not speaking for the finance committee
Okay.
here, I'm speaking as an individual.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
So I have a question about the prosecutor line. Apparently, we got rid of the prosecutor, and he's using a patrol officer, I guess, to act as a prosecutor.
Yeah, we opted out of the contract with the prosecutor that we had, and they're using a prosecutor from Goffstown on a need-by-need basis, and supplemented with one of our patrol people.
So is that why the $10,000 is left in that line?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we'll go on to the next article, which will be Article 10. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $59,953 to be used for raises for non-union town and library personnel? If approved, this addition would become part of the annual budget. The tax impact on this is 7 cents. Any questions, comments? Frank?
Frank Campana again. To all you 5 folks sitting in front of me, this is not a trick question, but I'd just like it to be made a little bit more public. How did you determine the 3% raise for non-union people? How did you justify the 3%?
Keeping them in line with what the police is getting under their collective bargaining. To be fair, we give them the same amount. It's 3% this year for the police and 3% under their collective bargaining agreement.
Okay,
And give the town employees, to be fair, the same 3%.
okay. Again, it wasn't a trick question. I heard that
Yep.
explanation, back at one of your
I
meetings.
understand.
Then to be fair, I would have no idea what the police contract states, what it offers the cops in any types of benefits or anything like that. I have nowhere to compare that, any of that language to the town policy. But if we're gonna start, in this case, issuing raises to non-union people to keep in line and to be fair with the police department, then perhaps, the non-union people ought to be offered some of the benefits of the police contract. You can't have it. I know you're shaking your head yes, because you're in total agreement. Okay, but you got 2 entities. You have one entity that is non-union people, all right, and then the other is a contract, a 3-year contract. Well, I had the benefit of saying yes or no to a police contract, but I don't have the benefit of, well, I can say yes or no to a raise, but again, to be fair across the board, I don't have the benefit to say yes, what other benefits can be offered to the town employee to keep in line with a police contract. I mean, it sounds like we're in a situation where whatever a bargaining unit gets, then, the non-bargaining unit's going to get something equal or pretty close to it. So that means with a 3% increase, if we have a town employee that's, or getting close, let me use a number, you can use, I picked a couple and only because it's easy for me to do in my head. But if we're approaching a town, non-union town employees approaching $100,000, 3%, $3,000. Is that being fair?
I don't think we have anybody quite in that bracket, but I understand
Well,
what you're
okay,
saying. But
say $70,000. So a town employees make $70,000. They're getting a $2,100 raise. I know we have town employees that are getting $70,000.
but they're not part of they wouldn't be part of the raise. They're exempt from part of that. Some of them are exempt from it. Some of them are taking it.
Boy, I don't know.
I thought some of the
Are you
administration ones aren't
cherry
in it.
picking who's going to get it? Then that's not fair. If you're telling me that, if you're giving me that, then that's not fair to the person that's not getting the
I
raise.
stand corrected. Everybody's getting it across the board.
Okay, I thought it was across the board.
Well, I know the one time was with some that weren't going to take the 3%. So,
Okay.
but that's changed this time.
Okay, and I know at one time there used to be, at the end of the year, the department heads would do evaluations, but that's gone by the wayside. I think it has. I haven't heard the.
Well, evaluations are a personnel item and we can't discuss that. So,
I didn't indicate that you could,
okay.
but that's how pay raises were doled out, was through evaluations. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks
And
again.
just to answer the question about benefits, each one's, the union has certain benefits that the non-union ones do, because the police department has certain specific items that they get that wouldn't be applicable to any other, and vice versa.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, so it is evened out. So, but you can get that information.
Yeah.
You can get a copy of the collective bargaining agreement. You can get which states in the personnel policy, which states for the non-union personnel.
Okay. All right. I'm all set. Thank you, Jack.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Bill Anderson, East Road. This article in the past has been like 1 or 2%. And I understand that this, the 3%.
It's
came
been
from-
3% the past couple of years. So,
Okay, well, I may be going back further. But I know
Okay.
at times it's been 2%
Right.
too, okay? And to compare it and say, well, the police contract is 3%, I think is a little bit apples and oranges, because when the police got the contract, we were having a lot of difficulty hiring people. I think there were special circumstances there. We wanted to be able to attract people and keep them. And to piggyback that now to say 3% in a year when we're having COVID, and there's a lot of folks out there that have either had reduced hours or certainly aren't getting raises. And this, I think, was a bad year to tack 3% on in relation to the COVID. I think it would have been more appropriate for a 1 or a 2% and not 3, because we're getting hit with, I think the school budgets are coming in way high with revenues being reduced. And I think it would have been better if it had been less and not tied to the 3% on the police contract.
okay. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Richard.
I think there should be better justification that the police department's getting 3%, so we're going to give them the employees. When you look at the value of an employee, not to be demeaning to any particular employee or job classification, but police officers, it's at a different level, and that's why we have a collective bargaining agreement.
Oh.
And we went into negotiations. It's probably going to be more difficult to replace, if you want to look at it that way, a police officer than it would be a truck driver.
Well, we haven't been able to fill truck driver positions that we've advertised for. So,
Well, from a public safety standpoint, I'd rather have the police officer on duty than maybe lose a truck driver. But still, you have a wider pool that you can draw from when you're looking at other positions other than police officers. So I don't think it's a fair comparison in terms of the general wage increase. In addition to that, I think we did and the board took care of the employees this year during the COVID crisis. I mean, I don't know how many months they worked at a half day, equivalent to a half day, maybe 20 hours, and they
Wow.
get paid for full pay. And I'm not
none of the
saying,
highway department guys worked only 20 hours or worked, half days. They worked rotating shifts, but,
They work 40 hours
Yeah.
a week. Okay. All right.
some of the other departments may have done that. The town clerk worked half days and so forth,
All right.
but that's a separate issue.
Yeah. I think 3% is too high, given the cost of living and the situation with COVID. I wish the board would just reconsider the 3%.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Recognize the highway superintendent.
Benji Knapp, 108 Perkins Pond Road. I'm going to speak a little bit on behalf of the Public Works Department and then a little bit on behalf of myself. This particular article gets more attention than any article we ever get. And I don't know anyone that has ever worked their whole life without the hopes of, working up the ladder and getting rewarded for your hard work every year. The average one of my guys, 3% is going to be a little over 50 cents an hour. We went, I think, 7 years with no raises a while back when the highway department went union for a while. And I always said if we'd have got our 50 cents every single year, there would have been no union. I wouldn't have asked for that $1 an hour a couple of years ago, which was only half of what we lost in the amount of time that we didn't get raises. So I really don't think that 3% is a huge amount to ask. And in addressing the COVID situation, there are tons of people that have taken a hard hit at this. My wife lost a few hours a week herself. But I think if you were to check in at the town offices, there has been the least amount of welfare requests in this town this year. And I don't want to throw a number out there, but in the past few, a couple electrical assistances and 4 or 5 turkey dinners in comparison to a couple dozen last year. So I think that's a kind of a poor leg to stand on, I guess. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to Article 11. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $99,291 to hire 2 full-time firefighter EMTs? This represents the wages, taxes, and benefits for 6 months and certain one-time expenses. If approved, the fire department operating budget will be reduced by $37,783. And in addition, would become part of the annual operating budget with an estimated annual cost of $182,557. It was recommended by the Board of Selectmen with an estimated tax impact of 7 cents. Any questions, comments? Richard?
I think this is a great program. The chief started this program 2 years ago. This is the 3rd year, transitioning from on-call service to full-time firefighters. And he stuck to his guns. He had the plan laid out 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He hasn't changed. He said, well, I think the voters are only going to approve one person this year, so I'm going to put 1 on the warrant. He came up with a plan, stuck to the plan. The voters supported it. He's up front. The information's on the warrant, hiring people, what the cost is going to be. Nothing hidden in the operating budget. I think he's done a great job providing a great service to the town. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to Article 12 then. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $5,382 for the cost of increasing the hourly wages for the employees of Chase Park within the Parks and Recreation Department? This represents the wages, payroll, taxes affiliated. If this warrant article is approved, this would become part of the annual operating budget. It was recommended by the board and has a tax impact of 1 cent. Frank?
This is not a trick question either, because I don't know the answer. I didn't hear it the night of the presentation, but is that a 3% also, do you know?
No, that's not.
It's not? Is there a percentage attached to it? There must be something attached to it.
Yeah, it estimated $1 an hour raise.
Okay. And just my own curiosity, how many people's is that? I meant to ask that for the non-union people. I guess I'll have to wait for the deliberative session.
Like about 12, 15
About
people.
12?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you,
It's hard to say. They come and go because some of them come back.
I
some
get
use it and
that.
Some don't.
Would you allow me to ask that same question going back to Article 10? About how, I'm guessing there's probably not any more than 30 non-union people.
Non-union people?
Yeah, that Article 10 affects. I mean, there's 15 or so in the highway department, I guess. I'm thinking of,
Not counting what the, yeah, 50. Yep.
would you say the entire?
Yeah. Fire and
So that's
rescue.
52
and 52 employees.
to include.
Plus.
Plus.
Oh,
them.
plus rescue.
Okay. Maybe before the night's over, just hazard a guess how many people. I don't know how many people the fire department has, but
34 plus 52.
okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay. Anything else on Article 12? Okay. Move on to Article 13. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $36,400, representing the cost of turning the part-time building inspector into a full-time employee? This will represent the wages and benefits for 9 months. If this warrant article is approved, this would become part of the operating budget with an annual cost of an additional $42,779, and it has a tax impact of 4 cents, and it was recommended by the board. Any questions on Article 13? Article 14. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 with said funds to come from the fire department equipment and vehicle special revenue fund for the purpose of replacing fire apparatus pump components? This special warrant article is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7(6) and will not lapse until the replacement is completed on or by December 31st, 2026. Recommended by the board, and it has a 0 tax impact. No questions? Article 15. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $61,000 for the purchase of one fully equipped frontline police cruiser? This was recommended by the board and has an estimated tax impact of 7 cents. Any questions on Article 15?
Guess what we're going to talk about? Fully equipped police vehicle. So
Oh.
I'm, go ahead. What are you going to say?
Your mask.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got to speak, right? So y'all can hear me.
you got to get around and face the microphone and say, get it so it's close. So there you go.
There we go. So the vehicle is composed of systems, a computer system, a radio system, a light system, a siren system, prisoner area storage, graphics, radar. Even the vehicle we are asking for this year at $61,000 is not a fully equipped police vehicle. The MDT is in a separate budget line. That's $6,000. We took that out of the request for a vehicle purchase because the MDT life cycle, and you've heard me talk about life cycle before, is 5 years. Last year, we asked for 2 cruisers. We didn't get them. Even though we didn't get them, we still need 1 computer every year because we have 5 in the cars. Each patrol vehicle has a car, so we need 1 replacement every year. Make sense? So if we put that computer into this article and it's not passed, we can't get a computer even though we need 1. That's why we had to buy 3 last year. We found out in our vehicle upfit costs the radar unit went up about $1,200. So Ospey Mountain took out the graphics package, meaning the graphics package now has to come out of our budget. If you add these two items to this year's cruiser, a fully equipped vehicle would actually be 68,600 plus 6,000, 68,600, I believe. The idea of not making this a fully equipped vehicle is as we move forward with the purchase of these Tahoes, these different systems that we have different life cycles. The radio we expect to last 2 vehicles worth, which means we're going to rotate and reuse a radio. So you could establish the top end cost of a fully equipped vehicle at 68,600, I believe I said, but it's not going to cost that every year. That'd be the top end cost. As we get more systems, which we can reuse, the lights, the prisoner partition area, the siren, the radio, because they have different life cycles, we're going to be asking for less in the warrant article. That's why it's not considered a fully equipped vehicle. Would be a flat $68,600 a year, every year, and then adjusting for the cost of inflation. We expect the costs to go down. That's why we don't ask for a fully equipped police cruiser and why that language is inappropriate. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? I didn't put that in there. That's what I'm clarifying. I'm recommending change it. It's not a fully equipped frontline police cruiser. I wouldn't use the term frontline either. I'd use patrol police cruiser. I can list what particular systems this cruiser would include. I'd be more than happy to do that. It includes the radio, the lights, the siren, the prisoner area, the storage, and the radar unit. Like I said, this one does not include graphics and MDT, which would make it a fully equipped cruiser. Yep, I'll step aside.
Okay, go ahead, Dick. You have to come up so we can hear you on the mic.
Are those additional items in the operating budget? The
I
accessory-
believe that's what he said. Some of it's going to have to come out of the operating budget.
Is it in the default budget?
I'm not sure if it is.
Because if it
You have to
doesn't,
ask the
if the
chief.
default budget gets approved,
Yep, if the
and
default,
the car gets approved, what is it going to be?
he'll have
a shelf?
to find it in his budget.
All right.
Any questions, any other questions on Article 15? Article 16, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $230,000 to be added to the previously established Highway Truck and Equipment Replacement Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of purchasing a new, fully equipped 10-wheel plow truck for the Highway Department. The purpose is to replace an existing plow truck. It was recommended by the board and has a tax impact of 26 cents. Frank?
Would you be able, not you personally, but would you be able to give me, provide me with the current balance in that capital reserve fund?
Beth? The highway equipment, truck and equipment replacement fund?
And to go along with that, has there been, over the last 2 years, has there been any money withdrawn from that?
Yes. The money that's appropriated goes in there, we get the truck, we pay for it out of there. That was explained a couple years ago.
Right, I get that, but there's a balance in there now which
I'm not sure.
will be provided.
164,500.
Okay. Wow, didn't know it was that much.
That covers
Okay,
both
I hear
the
some
truck
talking, I guess.
and equipment, so it's for twofold.
Okay, so has, again, within the last year or two, has there been any money withdrawn from that after the truck is bought?
I can't answer. No, I'm getting a no right
No.
now.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, one of the trucks, okay, there's gonna be money, okay. Did you get that, Frank? Okay. Any other questions?
This is just another department head who established a plan about replacing vehicles. We had gone a number of years without replacing vehicles, and he's putting a new vehicle on every year. It's a good program. Combined with the road reconstruction, I think the Public Works Director is doing a great job. Is there going to be a point in time, the Capital Reserve Fund is being funded as a result of maybe a less cost than what you put on the warrant article for the particular article, right? Maybe we get a better deal, whatever. And that fund is going to build up. Is it going to build up to the point where it could possibly buy a vehicle? I mean, at some point, the money should come back to offset the cost of that purchase.
Correct.
I feel. And how much did they say was in that fund?
150, 164.
You could cut the costs.
Right, but he still has some expenses to be taken out for another truck that we got last year that hasn't been finished being upfitted, so.
Oh, okay.
There's back order on some parts.
All right.
We have discussed that, and to be honest with you, we're just kind of waiting until there's enough in there to make a big difference. I would like to do that on a truck, say, here, we've saved enough money to buy one without very little tax impact anyway, you know. Never saw the point of really taking 30,000 out and putting it towards a truck so that balance is always zero because in a catastrophic failure or something, we'd be out of luck. But we get enough to buy a truck, I would certainly think that would be a topic of discussion anyway. So, but I have the upfitting of the little truck that was approved last year that hasn't been paid yet. So there's a fair amount of that money that's going to be deducted from the fund. So.
Okay, thank you, Benji. Anything else on Article 16? Not, the next item is Article 17. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $115,000 to be added to the previously established Transfer Station Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for the purchasing a new trash trailer for the transfer station? The purpose is to replace an existing transfer trash trailer. The board recommended, and it will have a tax impact of 13 cents. Frank?
Again, the same question, the balance in that fund?
Beth, the balance in that fund? $23,200. Not what? $21. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on Article 17? Okay. Article 18. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the previously established Bridge Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of erecting, repairing, or replacing bridges? Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, and the tax impact is 3 cents. Any questions, comments? Dick?
This started out about 3 years ago to
Correct.
take care of some bridges. What's the plan?
Well, we're waiting for the state because we're on the 80-20 bridge plan with them. They pay the 80%, we pay the 20% difference, except who knows when it's going to come up. We're on the list. It's taking a little bit longer. At this time, I know that the cost of things going up, so we can stay viable for that list. If we don't have the money to meet the difference, then we're dumped off the list. So to do
How
that.
much money is in that?
What's
fund?
that?
How much money is in that fund now?
What was it? Yeah, 422,000.
Is there a number that you have that you need to meet?
It depends on what the state says when they come down and finally get the engineering and everything and said, this is what we got and we've got to have the money there.
Okay, I'd just like to know if this is going to be every year from here on out.
Until we get, probably until we get something from the state because of the cost of materials, cost of,
So it's going to
the
be,
engineering goes up constantly.
it's a specific project. You're not just putting money into this fund for something you
It's
may
for
need.
specific projects for bridges, whichever bridge is the worst that gets replaced
And
first.
they're
on the-
identified and there's a cost associated with them?
We don't have the definite cost because the engineering is going to be different on every bridge.
Okay.
So it's up to what the state comes in with the engineering plans and what they say the cost is going to be.
It's been 3 years at least.
Benji, correct me if I'm wrong. The initial idea of that fund was for the River Road Bridge at Buzzell Hill and the culvert on Poor Farm, Poor Farm or Lull? Lull in Francistown. That was the original intent. And at that time, when we started putting away, I'll say, saving the money for that 20%, the numbers that were given were we needed 400K on hand. That was the number that was given. But unfortunately, right now, we've been pushed off. You know, the list has gotten pushed out, and also costs have gone up in the last 3 to 4 years. So this is to just make that adjustment so that we are still ready and still in a position if the state comes down and says, we're ready to go, you have your money. Yes, we do. Right, but to say that this is moving every year to 25,000 every year, I don't think that that's true. As one member, I don't believe that's a true statement.
Benji?
Yeah, you're right, Rick. We hope not to have this every year. So we asked for 105,000 for 4 years. That was the original upfront estimated cost on the 2 big culverts, which now will be bridges and River Road Bridge. A number of things happened at the state level. Biggest one of all, running out of money. Change of hands of the highest seat in that division. The DES determined that you needed bridges for things that used to only need culverts for. So there's one reason they ran out of money. So this is to give us a little extra so that we will have enough for our 20%, but also to be able to repair anything that fails between now and then. We are right now, got pushed back to 2026.
Oh, okay.
Originally, that was for the Lowell Road project. Myself and mainly Naomi went over to the state and talked to them, got it switched with the River Road, which is the most expensive one, but because that is failing at astronomical rates. We may have to repair that again, which would be terrible, but we can't close River Road. So we want money enough to do something in the fund. But yes, I hope not to have this on here forever either. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Article 19, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $525,000 to be added to the previously established road reconstruction capital reserve fund for road reconstruction and resurfacing of roads up to $276,150 anticipated to be received from the state of New Hampshire Highway Block Grant pursuant to RSA 235. And the estimated remaining balance of $248,850 to be raised by taxation. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen with a tax impact of 28 cents. Any comments or questions? Moving on to Article 20 then. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the previously established Government Building and Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of funding anticipated failures to the aging infrastructure? Board of Selectmen recommend, and it's a 2-cent tax impact. Any questions or comments? Article 21. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for cemetery improvements and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of said sum from the Cemetery Trust Funds Cypre account, and it's recommended by the Board of Selectmen with 0 tax impact. Article 22. shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to allow Conservation Commission to secure contracted services with a licensed forester for forestry services, including plan updates, harvest layout, harvest management, forest inventory, invasive species control, and other related services, and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of that sum from the town forest account. It's recommended by the Board of Selectmen and also has a zero tax impact. Any questions or comments? Frank?
Try to remember this mask this time. Is there any plan that the selectmen are aware of for this money? I mean, it says for purchase of new town forest land. Is there anything out there that's proposed? Or is it just,
Yeah, that's for the forester.
yeah, forester?
Well,
It says.
it's got forestry man for, yeah, that's what he's gonna do. That's what the forester is for. That's for him to do that work.
Well,
Huh?
it says the expenditure towards the purpose of new town forest land and fund this appropriation.
Contractor
We're
services
on
for a
23?
licensed forester for forestry
okay, I wanna-
services,
Okay,
including the plans for that.
I'll be here for the next one.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Article 23, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $140,000 for the Conservation Commission expenditure towards the purchase of new town forest land and fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of that sum from the town forest account. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen and has a zero impact. Now you can ask Frank.
I had already flipped the page.
Yeah, well,
So my question stands, is the board aware in any presentation of any land that might be available that they have the plan for?
yeah, we
just
do
curious.
have nothing that we know of right at this present time.
Okay,
So,
all right, that's it.
okay. And the next article is Article 24. And this is one by petition to see if the town will vote to enact noise ordinance restricting the use of tannerite or any other type of binary rifle target within the residential area that results in a potent explosion. That one is by petition and has nothing to do with the board. What's that? You have a question on it? We'll try and answer it, but it's. I don't believe the person that wrote it, no, they're not here.
I just have a technical question, I guess. Does the town have a definition for residential area? I know we have zoning, we have
Yeah,
residential zoning,
there's a
RA.
residential area in the zoning regulations, but like I
But
said, this is what was written by petition. They brought it forth, so.
You didn't provide any assistance to them?
No.
So, but does the town have a definition for a residential area?
Yeah, whatever's in the zoning and the zoning ordinances. So it'd be a residential area where somebody lives. I mean,
I don't know if we do have that.
it's not residential, it's
There's
not
lots that-
residential and it's commercial.
Yeah,
or
you have individual
agricultural.
Lots that are identified as residential.
What's that?
You have individual lots that are identified residential, rural, ag, or commercial.
Commercial, right? You
Industrial.
have different areas of town that are marked that way.
But I'm just wondering if there's an area designated for residential. Because what's the use of putting it on there? You know, if-
Well, I mean, it's up
Can't
to,
be
that
enforced.
one was brought forth by a petition. It's not, not ours.
I
It's-
understand
It's an
that.
individual, so they had the signatures and it'll come to the voters.
Is that going to be reviewed by the town council?
What's that?
Is that going to be reviewed by town council?
That one, no, I believe they reviewed it by their own counsel. So like I said, it's by petition. They knew that they had to meet certain legal requirements to bring it forth. So many signatures and so forth. Article 25, by petition of 25 or more eligible voters in the town of Ware to see if the town will vote to urge that the New Hampshire General Court, which is obligated to redraw the maps of political districts within the state following the federal census, will ensure fair and effective representation of New Hampshire voters without gerrymandering. Okay. Additionally, these voters ask the town of Ware to urge the New Hampshire General Court to carry out the redistricting in a fair and transparent way through public meetings, not to favor a particular political party, to include communities of interest, and to minimize multi-seat districts. Furthermore, as the New Hampshire State Constitution, Part 2, Article 11 allows towns of sufficient population to have their own state representatives not shared with other towns, for the town of Ware to petition the New Hampshire General Court for its own exclusive seats at the New Hampshire House of Representatives if it does not have it already. Ensuing that the state representatives properly represent the town's interest, the record of the vote approving this article shall be transmitted by written notice from the town officials to Ware's state legislatures, informing them of the demands from their constituents within 30 days of the vote by petition. No questions or comments? The last is Article 26, to transact any other business which may legally come before this meeting, which will be the deliberative session. Dick?
I'd just like to thank you, Jack, for running this meeting tonight. It's been one of the most organized, I think, public hearings for the budget and for all the warrant articles. And appreciate the time you took and did a great job.
Thank you. I've seen as we had to kind of wing it here over in the school, but if there's no other business to be transacted on this, and we're going to close the hearing at this point in time. Oh, Frank, you just made it under the wire.
Okay. I knew you would, I was testing you.
Yeah.
Just referring back to the cruiser,
Right?
I'll use the word cruiser. I would use patrol car, but it's okay. I mean, that's what,
It's anonymous.
that's what's in there. So it's Article 15. The suggestion was made by the police chief, and I kind of understood what he said about not having the word fully equipped in there. But I would suggest leave that wording in there. And if that $61,000 doesn't represent the cost of a fully equipped car, then change the dollar amount. Again, I think I understood what he said. I wasn't really positive. I may have to wait for the deliberative session too. So I've always been, I guess, used to, the highway trucks, always been fully equipped. And I guess that even means the seal on the side door. So fully equipped for a car would be the markings. So unless I misunderstood something from his presentation, I would suggest changing the dollar amount to reflect what fully equipped would cost. I think. Rick's looking at me puzzled, so I don't know if I'm confusing you or not, but
No.
So just to clarify, you want to bring that number to 68,000 rather than 61. Is that
well, the
what you
police
want?
chief's presentation was that it's not fully equipped. He's got to put other equipment in there, which I
Right.
think he said was covered in his budget. The question was asked was covered in his budget.
Right, because some of the equipment expires that has a shelf life that he's putting in there. So it has to have a rotation outside of if we weren't to get vehicles for 10 years,
Right.
say, the equipment inside still needs to be updated. So that's why he put that in his operating budget. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I'm getting a head
Okay.
nod. So I think that's what he's saying is
Okay.
again, so that equipment has to be updated regardless of whether it's in a newer vehicle or not. So that's why it's in his budget rather than in the
Okay.
warrant article line.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Well,
I may look puzzled, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I would lean personally as one member to agree with him is that because that equipment is on a different rotation schedule than the car itself, because it's not just a car with a woo-woo light on the top of it anymore. They
Right.
got
No,
the
I understand.
equipment in there, they got the computer in there, they got, so that's right. Yes, it is.
I think the other thing
Well,
too, the chief was getting at, Frank, is some of the equipment doesn't fit from one car. They may take it out of one car that's going out of service. And years ago, you could take the cage
Yeah.
or the prisoner petition, to be politically correct, out of one vehicle, stick it into another one, and it will fit.
Yeah.
Now, they've changed designs, body designs, sizes, shapes, that you can't take one from the Dodge and put it in a Tahoe.
Sure,
Or take
sure.
it and put it in a Ford or anything else, because,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's an additional cost
Okay.
above and beyond.
Well, I guess I'm a creature of habit. I hate to see the word fully equipped leave the explanation. Pardon me? No, I said I hate to see it leave the explanation.
Yeah, so you'd rather see fully equipped, but change the dollar
Yeah,
amount.
but it's a little not quite transparent because it's,
Well equipped,
uh,
mostly equipped.
well, or partially equipped.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, all
We'll
right,
take
thanks.
that one. Okay. There's nothing else, then we'll close the public hearing. And it's at, what? Wait a second, I haven't closed the hearing yet. At 8:15. And if there's nothing else, no other business, I have a motion that we adjourn by Selectman Van, and it's seconded by Vice Chairman Hippler. All those in favor? Yes, yes. Thank you very much.